my cozy crafters. Welcome back to Engineering Knits, where I like to explore everything historically fiber craft related, although I have a special place in my heart for knitting, which is why I'm really excited to talk about today's topic, which is Shetland lace shawls. Picture delicate, gauzy wonders as light as a feather and adorned with intricate lace patterns. These beautiful shawls, which hail from the magical Shetland Islands, are a true work of art. Aside from the fact that they are truly magical, you might be wondering why I'm so excited about them, and the reason is because it's going to form the last bit of my 1840s ensemble. As you might remember from the video where I explored the hair pieces that I made for the 1840s, especially one for Ada Lovelace, then you'll know that I'm still missing one vital piece of Ada Lovelace's hair dress, which is the mantilla. I wanted to knit my own lace veil, and as luck would have it, I came across a book from 1842 that had a pattern for a Shetland lace scarf that I thought would be perfect for this particular use. Looking at the pattern, it does suggest that you take a Shetland yarn and unply it, so you're working with just one strand of Shetland yarn. Unfortunately, I didn't have any of that available for me. However, I have been working on unraveling some thrifted sweaters, and I came across a beautiful black cashmere sweater that I unraveled, and I thought they would be absolutely perfect for this shawl. As for the needles, the recommended size was great, but you know me, I prefer to use circular needles even if what I'm knitting is knit flat. The pattern divides the scarf into 3 sections. You have the bottom border, the center motif, and then the top border, and it is rectangularly constructed. So it has you cast on 100 stitches and then knit for a rectangular scarf, but I wanted to use this as a mantilla, so I wanted to make it square. So instead of casting on the 100 stitches recommended, I cast on 250 stitches to make the shawl hopefully 1 yard square when it was finished. After working the first bottom border repeat a few times, I realized that there was kind of an interesting pattern emerging. Here, I'm going to show you a little bit of what that pattern looks like. Hold on, will this help? All right, so I think that allows you to see the pattern a little bit better. I did have a hiccup here. I did accidentally back-to-back lace rows, which I guess is a little bit more accurate for Shetland shawls, but I decided not to go back and fix it. I don't think it's that noticeable, and if anything, it just makes it lighter and airier. It's also kind of fun because the pattern, the way you knit it, causes this kind of curvy bottom across the whole entire length of the shawl, so that's going to be really fun. Now I just have to knit this pattern until we reach, I think my decision was somewhere between 12 and 15 inches. I'm going to think about the design a little bit longer because I did change the design from exactly what was said in the pattern book, because it's not a scarf, it's going to be a full shawl. So we'll see what I end up doing. Despite that little hiccup in one of the repeats, I just soldiered on in knitting the rest of the shawl. However, at this point it dawned on me that I hadn't done any kind of gauge swatching for any of the borders or the central motif at all, and this is really important for lace weight work because if you haven't worked on it before, or even if you have, then you'll know that it blooms like crazy, so it grows a lot when you block it. And also the pattern doesn't talk about repeats, it says just knit until you get to 14 inches. How do I know how many repeats equals 14 inches without a gauge swatch? So I hit pause for a second on knitting the shawl, and I switched to doing a few gauge swatches. Not only was that really helpful because I was able to measure out the gauge swatches, and I found that I needed 25 repeats of the border pattern and 40 repeats of the central motif to get the size that I wanted, but it was also really exciting to see what the lace would look like once it was blocked, and I had a much better idea of what the shawl would look like once I was done knitting it. Something else that I realized is that the central motif is a little bit more like a true Shetland lace pattern. If you don't know, Shetland lace is renowned for its lightness and its airiness. You have a lot of Shetland lace wedding shawls, which are reported to be able to fit the entire huge shawl through the circumference of a wedding ring, which is incredible. Also, typical lace patterns, you only work a lace pattern in one row, and on the row back you either just knit or purl. Traditionally, Shetland lace, you work a lace pattern every single row, which is extra difficult. And lace is already fiddly, and that makes it that much more fiddly. Also, traditionally, they are knit on 2 straight needles using a knitting belt so that you could also knit while you were walking, which was something that happened quite frequently as I gather in the Shetland Islands. After working on the shawl for quite a few hours at this point, something struck me, and that is that one pattern repeat of the border was kind of an impressive feat. I cast on 250 stitches, and each pattern repeat is 4 rows. So one pattern repeat of the border is 1,000 stitches, which means that the 25 repeats that I have for the bottom of the shawl are 25,000 stitches in order to get that part finished. And doing a little bit more calculations, the shawl in total will take me about 60,000 stitches. Wild when I think about it that way. But it's something that can be finished, and after a few weeks of work I had finished knitting the bottom border and the central motif. The 40 rows of that central lace pattern is now complete, and look at that! It's so much more airy than the kind of shell pattern or fan pattern at the bottom. I think it's going to block really, really interestingly. The other thing that I didn't really think about when I blocked the sample of the center lace, I blocked it square, but because it is surrounded by this fan lace, I don't know if you can see, it'll probably come out more clearly in the blocking, but at the bottom here, the lace at the center is also taking on that slight wave or fan shape, and I think that'll be really interesting to see how much of that will be preserved when I do block it. And you know, maybe I'll go out of my way to really make that show up more in the blocking. There's a few ways that I could do that, but I'll think about it. Now we have to go back to the fan pattern, 25 repeats, and it does say in the pattern to reverse the order. I was kind of thinking like, it's the same forward and back for how you're knitting it. Like it's not any different, but I think what is meant is that on the way up, so the first fan repeat, I do a lace row and then 3 stockinette. And then a lace row and then 3 stockinette. And I think what this means is that I first do the 3 stockinette stitch and then the lace row to kind of mirror in the row direction, not in the stitches direction, like the vertical direction, not the horizontal. It's like warp versus weft, if anyone knows that from the weaving terms or from fabric terminology. Anyhow, we have 25,000 stitches to go to finish this shawl, and I'm going to see if I can finish it this week. That would be really nice. By week, I mean a working week, so 5 repeats a day, so about 5,000 stitches a day. Is that asking too much? I don't know. It's fun, so it just might be a little sore after a while. We'll have to see. I was determined at this point. I only had the top border left, and I thought that, you know, if I could do 5 repeats a day, then within 1 working week, I would be finished with the shawl. I know that might sound a little grindy, but honestly, this shawl brought me so much joy to knit. Some of these intricate, delicate, lacy things can get a little bit grindy. Some stockings that I've knit in the past have, but my enjoyment in knitting this piece has not decreased from when I began to this point where I was still facing about 25,000 stitches to finish the shawl. And I managed to keep at it, and by the end of the week, I was able to work on my cast off row for my shawl. It felt like a truly monumental moment in this kind of pretty grand project that I did not expect to be quite this grand. But wait, our journey doesn't end here with this shawl. As we've seen before, while the shawl already looks kind of ethereal and delicate, it is nowhere near done until it is fully blocked. Now, traditionally, Shetland shawls are blocked on a specially designed and built frame. Unfortunately, I do not own one of those, so I had to improvise a little bit with what I had available to me and the space that I had available to me. I blocked it out to about 36 inches by 36 inches into a nice large square and let it dry overnight. But it is so delicate and airy that honestly, it probably was already dry after just a few hours. After taking all of the bits and pieces off that I used to block it, my Shetland lace shawl was complete. I could add a border. The pattern does mention adding a border to it, and it seems like a lot of traditional Shetland lace shawls do have borders around them, but I'm really happy with how my shawl turned out as is. And to wear it as a mantilla, I folded it in half diagonally and draped it across my hair pieces over my shoulders and my back to mimic the portrait of Ada Lovelace. I cannot express how thrilled I am with the result of this project. It took me quite a long while to finish it. I had originally hoped to finish it before my trip, but let's admit it, I was a tad overambitious with that. Instead, I took my time and really enjoyed all the stitches that I was knitting on this piece, and it really brought me a lot of joy. I really enjoyed the process, and I really enjoy the product of this particular shawl. Thank you so much for joining me on my journey of knitting a Shetland lace shawl from a pattern from 1842. If you subscribe and hit the notification bell, then you'll be notified of when my next video will come up, which is watching me get dressed for the 1840s ball, as we now have all pieces of the ensemble complete and ready for me to wear. If you want to and are able, then you can also support me on Patreon, but I appreciate any of your support, from subscribing, liking, commenting, anything like that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you again to Wodoku for sponsoring today's video and making it possible. And remember that you can download Wodoku from the link in my description below. I'll see you next time. Bye.